Bull riding is one of the most thrilling, but also one of the most dangerous sports in the world. It's the ultimate battle between man and beast, where an 8-second ride can mean glory or disaster. But sometimes, things take a tragic turn, reminding us just how unforgiving this sport can be. Over the years, there have been moments when riders never got up after a fall, when a routine ride turned into a nightmare. These are the stories that shake the rodeo world to its core. Today, we're looking at 5 disturbing deaths of bull riders during performances, moments where the arena fell silent and the sport lost some of its bravest warriors. It was July 30th, 1989, a day that would forever haunt the rodeo world. The Cheyenne Frontier Days finals were in full swing, and the crowd buzzed with excitement as one of the sport's brightest stars prepared for his next ride. Lane Frost, just 25 years old, was already a legend, a world champion bull rider with a magnetic personality, a fearless heart, and a future that seemed limitless. But no one knew they were about to witness his final ride. Born on October 12, 1963, in Lane, Oklahoma, Frost was raised in the heart of rodeo country. His father, Clyde, was a cowboy himself, and though Lane initially showed little interest in the sport, something changed along the way. The fire inside him ignited, and by the late 80s he had taken the rodeo world by storm. In 1987, he reached the pinnacle of his career, winning the World Championship. The following year, he faced off against the infamous Red Rock, a bucking bull that had never been ridden for the full 8 seconds, until Lane did the impossible. He was more than just a competitor. He was a hero to fans, a friend to fellow riders, and an icon in the making. But fate had other plans. That fateful July day in 1989, the skies over Wyoming were gray, the air thick with the scent of rain-soaked dirt. Lane's opponent, a fierce, unpredictable bull named Taking Care of Business. The gate flew open, and for 8 electrifying seconds Lane danced with danger, gripping the beast with the unshakable confidence that had made him a champion. The crowd erupted as he scored an impressive 85 points. But in rodeo, the ride isn't over when the whistle blows. As Lane dismounted, something went horribly wrong. He landed awkwardly in front of the bull. A heartbeat later, the beast struck. A powerful horn drove into Lane's ribs, and in an instant, the unbreakable cowboy was broken. He staggered to his feet, took a few uncertain steps, then collapsed face first into the Wyoming dirt. The arena fell silent. Dr. Skip Ross, the first responder, rushed to his side. The injuries were catastrophic. Broken ribs had punctured his heart. For 90 agonizing minutes, medical personnel fought to save him, but there was nothing they could do. Lane Frost, the fearless cowboy who had stared down death countless times, was gone. His death sent shockwaves through the rodeo world. His best friends, fellow riders Cody Lambert and Tuff Hademan were shattered. Cody, devastated by the loss, refused to let Lane's death be in vain. He designed the protective vest that is now a standard piece of equipment in bull riding, a life-saving innovation born from tragedy. But Lane's legacy didn't end there. His story inspired a generation. J.B. Mauney, one of the sport's most dominant bull riders, credits Lane as one of his biggest influences. His life was immortalized in the 1994 film 8 Seconds, with Luke Perry portraying him on the big screen, introducing his legend to an even wider audience. Even in death, Lane's presence remains. His mother, Elsie Frost, turned her grief into purpose, distributing the Cowboy Bible in his memory, sharing faith and inspiration with young riders across the country. His nephew, Stetson Frost, built the Lane Frost brand, keeping his name alive in rodeo culture. And the safety measures that exist today, the vests, the helmets, the heightened awareness of just how deadly this sport can be, are all because of Lane's final ride. For those who were there that day, for those who heard the gasp of the crowd and watched a legend fall, the memory of Lane Frost will never fade. His story is one of triumph and tragedy, of a man who lived fearlessly and rode until the very end. And in the heart of every bull rider who steps into the arena, Lane rides on. On March the 24th, 2000, the lights shone down on the arena in Albuquerque, New Mexico. The air was thick with excitement as the professional bull riders' Bud Light Cup Series continued, showcasing the toughest men against the meanest bulls. Among them was Glen Keeley, a 30-year-old Canadian cowboy from Alberta, a rider at the peak of his career. He wasn't just good, he was one of the best, ranked 9th in the world by points and 6th by earnings. He was chasing greatness, one ride at a time. That night, he was set to face a beast unlike any other, Promised Land, a monstrous bull that had been named the 1999 PBR Bull of the Year. This animal wasn't just strong, it was unpredictable, violent, and nearly impossible to conquer. Weighing nearly as much as a small car, Promised Land had no mercy for any rider daring enough to take him on. But Glen was undeterred. He had spent over a decade mastering the art of bull riding, and tonight he was determined to climb even higher in the rankings. The arena was electric as Glen settled onto the bull's back, gripping the rope tightly. The seconds stretched before the chute flew open, and then all hell broke loose. Promised Land exploded out of the gate like a missile, twisting, bucking, throwing his full power into dislodging the rider on his back. Glen held on with every ounce of strength he had, battling for control, fighting for those crucial 8 seconds. But the bull was relentless. A sudden, brutal twist sent Glen airborne, slamming him into the dirt. The crowd gasped, but Glen had been thrown before. He knew how to take a fall. He tried to move, but in the blink of an eye, Promised Land's massive hind legs came crashing down onto his chest. A sickening silence fell over the crowd. For a moment, Glen lay still in the dirt, the brutal impact having crushed his body. Then, miraculously, he stirred. Against all odds, he managed to stand, walking off the arena with help from the medical team. He even joked with the staff, brushing off concerns. To the stunned audience, it seemed like another close call. He was tough, he was going to be okay. But behind the scenes, something was terribly wrong. By the time Glen reached the University of New Mexico hospital, the severity of his injuries became horrifyingly clear. He had suffered massive internal damage, including a lacerated liver. His condition deteriorated rapidly. Doctors fought desperately to save him, but the bleeding was unstoppable. Before 10 p.m. that night, Glen Keeley took his final breath. The news sent shockwaves through the bull riding world. A man at the top of his game, a cowboy who had risked it all, was suddenly gone. It was the first high-profile bull riding death in North America in 6 years. The risk had always been there, lurking behind every gate, in every unpredictable movement of a 2,000-pound beast. But Glen's passing was a painful reminder of how quickly a dream can turn into a nightmare. His family knew these dangers all too well. Years earlier, Glen's brother Jason had been gored by a bull and left in a coma for 2 weeks. But Glen never wavered. Bull riding was in his blood. He had made a promise to himself, to his family, that he would compete for just 1 more year. That year was 2000, and that fateful night in Albuquerque was his last ride. The rodeo didn't stop the next day, but it wasn't the same. Cowboys wore memorial stickers on their vests, and a press conference was held, addressing the tragedy that had rocked the sport. Dr. Tandy Freeman, who treated Glen, revealed the devastating truth. His vitals were stable until surgeons saw the extent of the damage. By then, it was too late. He bled to death before they could save him. Months later, at the 2000 PBR World Finals, Glen's legacy was honored with a heartfelt tribute. He had been on track for one of his best seasons ever, earning nearly $34,000 that year. His name would never be forgotten. Today, Glen's memory lives on. The Glen Keeley Memorial Bull Riding event and a scholarship fund were created in his honor. Every year, at the PBR World Finals, a Canadian cowboy is awarded the Glen Keeley Award, ensuring that his legacy of courage and determination continues. On January 15, 2019, the Denver Coliseum was electric. Fans packed the arena, their voices rising in anticipation as Mason Lowe, one of the top-ranked bull riders in the world, prepared for his next challenge. At just 25 years old, he was no stranger to danger. He had spent years conquering some of the toughest bulls in the sport, but that night, he was about to face a beast that would change everything: hard times. The chute burst open, and the 1,500-pound bull exploded into the arena, twisting and bucking with relentless fury. Mason held on with the skill and determination that had earned him a spot among the world's best. But in a brutal, heart-stopping moment, he was thrown violently to the dirt. Before he could react, Hard Times came crashing down, its full weight crushing his chest. The crowd gasped as Mason staggered to his feet, clutching his chest in agony. Then he collapsed. Silence fell over the arena. Medical staff rushed to his side, desperately working to stabilize him as he was rushed to Denver Health Medical Center. But the damage was too severe. Despite wearing a protective vest, the sheer force of the impact had shattered his ribs and caused catastrophic damage to his heart and aorta. That night, Mason Lowe, one of the brightest stars in professional bull riding, was gone. His death sent shockwaves through the PBR community. The following night, riders took to the arena with memorial patches sewn onto their vests, a solemn tribute to their fallen brother. Sean Gleason, PBR's CEO, spoke for everyone when he said, "The loss of Mason is devastating to us all. Our thoughts, prayers, and deepest condolences are with his family and wife, Abby." Despite the tragedy, Hard Times was kept in competition, with officials stating that the bull had no intention of causing harm. But for those who witnessed Mason's final ride, the moment was forever etched into their memories. Mason's legacy lived on. His funeral service, held on January 23, 2019, in his hometown of Boonville, Missouri, was attended by hundreds of mourners. That season, PBR renamed their annual event in St. Louis, Missouri, the Mason Lowe Memorial, ensuring his name would never be forgotten. Mason Lowe rode with passion, fearlessness, and heart, and though his life ended far too soon, his story remains a reminder of the unforgiving nature of the sport he loved and the unbreakable spirit of a cowboy who gave everything for it. On July 2, 2023, the Stoney Nakoda Rodeo in Alberta, Canada, was alive with excitement. Fans gathered under the summer sky, eager to witness the raw power and courage that defined bull riding's most fearless competitors. Among them was Seth Salto, a 19-year-old sensation whose passion for the sport burned brighter than the arena lights. He had already made a name for himself, a three-time Indian National Finals Rodeo (INF) qualifier, a young warrior in the indigenous rodeo circuit, and a rising star with his sights set on the professional bull riders PBR tour. This was his moment. As he prepared to ride, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Seth had spent years training for nights like this. Inspired by his grandfather, Marcel Salto, a legendary bull rider in his own right, Seth had embraced the sport with fearless determination since the age of 14. He knew the risks. He welcomed the challenge. Then the chute burst open. The bull erupted into the arena, kicking, twisting, thrashing with violent force. Seth held on with every ounce of strength and skill he had honed over the years. The crowd roared, their cheers blending with the deep, thunderous breaths of the beast beneath him. But in a split second, the ride took a devastating turn. He was thrown. The impact was brutal. The arena, once alive with energy, fell eerily silent as Seth lay motionless in the dirt. Medical teams rushed in. Fans held their breath. Despite his protective headgear, despite the safety measures in place, the injuries were catastrophic. The fight was over before it even began. Seth Salto had taken his last ride. Word spread like wildfire. The rodeo world was shattered. How could a life so full of promise be cut short in an instant? How could a cowboy who had already conquered so much be gone before reaching his prime? He had dreams of standing on the grandest stages, proving that indigenous riders belonged among the best in the world. He had an undeniable presence, a charm that could light up any room, and a heart that beat only for the sport he loved. Now, his name would be spoken not in celebration, but in grief. In the days that followed, tributes poured in from across North America. Competitors, fans and family members mourned the loss of a young man whose journey was only just beginning. But in every whispered memory, in every retelling of his greatest rides, Seth Salto's legacy refused to fade. He may have left this world too soon, but his story will live on, etched into the soul of the sport he loved, forever remembered as the fearless cowboy who dared to chase the impossible. On December 11, 1994, the Thomas and Mack Center in Las Vegas, Nevada was electric. It was the final night of the National Finals Rodeo, NFR, and the world's best bull riders had gathered for one last showdown. Among them was Brent Thurman, a 25-year-old rising star whose name was already etched into the sport's history. Thurman wasn't just another cowboy chasing glory. He was a force to be reckoned with. A founding member of the Professional Bull Riders, PBR, he had carved out his legacy on the back of the fiercest bulls in the sport. But on this night, fate had a different plan. As Thurman prepared for his ride, something felt different. Normally calm and collected, he turned to fellow rider Aaron Samus, who had faced the same bull earlier in the competition. "What do you think of Red Wolf?" he asked, his voice carrying an uncharacteristic edge of uncertainty. The chute opened. Red Wolf erupted from the gate with bone-rattling force. Thurman gripped tight, his body moving instinctively with the beast's violent twists and kicks. 4 seconds in, the crowd roared. 5 seconds, he was still holding strong. But then, disaster struck. He was bucked off. Most riders know how to take a fall. But this wasn't just a fall. Somehow, Thurman's hand tangled in his bull rope. A deadly mistake. The bull dragged him beneath its raging hooves, and in an instant, 2,000 pounds of fury came crashing down onto the back of his head and neck. The arena fell silent as Thurman hit the dirt, his body unmoving. For a brief moment, he lifted his head, a flicker of life, a fight to stay conscious. But then, his body went still. The Justin Sports medicine team rushed in, their faces tight with urgency. EMTs loaded him onto a stretcher, racing to University Medical Center. But the damage was done. Severe cranial and facial fractures. Brent Thurman never woke up. 6 days later, on December 17, 1994, the rodeo world received the news it had feared. Brent Thurman was gone. The aftermath was one of shock, grief, and an eerie sense of disbelief. How could this happen? Red Wolf had never been known as a particularly aggressive bull. The death was ruled a freak accident, but for those who had seen it firsthand, it was a nightmare that would never fade. His funeral, held at the Travis County Exposition Center in Austin, Texas, was a solemn gathering of family, friends, and fellow riders who struggled to comprehend the loss of a man who had seemed invincible. But legends never truly die. In the years that followed, Thurman's name would become synonymous with courage, determination, and the unbreakable spirit of a cowboy. In 1996, the PBR introduced the Lane Frost Brent Thurman Award, given to the rider with the highest scoring ride at the World Finals, ensuring that his legacy lived on alongside another fallen legend. From 1999 to 2017, the Brent Thurman Memorial Bull Riding event raised money for charity, honoring his memory in the sport he loved. In 2002, he was posthumously inducted into the Texas Rodeo Cowboy Hall of Fame. In 2011, he joined the PBR Ring of Honor, solidifying his place among the greatest to ever take the ride. Las Vegas even paid tribute, naming a frontage road after him, Brent Thurman Way. Today, the Brent Thurman Foundation continues to serve special needs communities in Austin, Texas, carrying forward his spirit of generosity and strength. Though Red Wolf's career continued until his retirement in 2000 and his death in 2006, the memory of that fateful night in 1994 never faded. Brent Thurman's ride may have ended too soon, but his story, his impact, will forever be a part of rodeo history.